Welcome to WhatGear Reviews, tech reviews coming to you from rainy old England, and today Xiaomi have sent me over the Mi 11 Lite. Now this is a brand new phone from Xiaomi, and some of you might be thinking, should I go for this or should I go for the Redmi Note 10 Pro? Which of course is another awesome option from Xiaomi, and although we don't have an official price on the 11 Lite at the time of this video, I would imagine these two are going to be quite closely priced. So hopefully this video will help you decide which one of these smartphones will be better for you. So first of all, the Mi 11 Lite is of course 5G, whereas the Redmi Note 10 Pro is only 4G. Now 4G isn't slow by any means. It's not like we're in the dark ages of 3G or anything like that. It still is a very fast phone when it comes to data. But if 5G is a deal breaker for you, then this is the phone you should go for. So this is a massive difference between the two devices, and it's something I really like about the Mi 11 Lite, the yellow phone here, is it's so thin. It's actually 1.3mm thinner than the Redmi Note 10 Pro, and it's also 36 grams lighter as well. And although it's lighter and thinner, it doesn't feel cheap in any way. In fact, I actually feel like it feels more premium than the Note 10 Pro in some ways. Now here's a win for the Note 10 Pro, and it's the fact that it has a quad camera array as opposed to the triple camera array here on the Mi 11 Lite. And stick around to the end of the video because I am going to be doing some side-by-side photo comparisons on each lens so you guys can see which camera is actually better. And when it comes to the backs of the devices, I have to lean towards the Mi 11 Lite here because I prefer that frosted finish over a gloss finish any day of the week. I just prefer the way the light glows when it hits the back of the phone as opposed to the way light glares off the back of a high gloss surface like we see on the Redmi Note 10 Pro. And another really fantastic quality when it comes to this kind of finish is the fact that it is not a fingerprint magnet. So if I touch this like this, you can see basically no fingerprints. Redmi Note 10 Pro, high gloss, glass back, and you can see fingerprints. And when it comes to the glass on the front, there is a difference here as well. We've got Gorilla Glass 5 on the Redmi Note 10 Pro, and we've got a stronger Gorilla Glass 6 on the new Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite. So that's an advantage again for the Mi 11 Lite. And both phones have the same side-mounted fingerprint readers, which are very snappy, very fast. So there's no difference there in my opinion. Now this might be a big win for some of you guys out there for the Redmi Note 10 Pro, and it's the fact that it does have a headphone jack. And both phones rock dual speakers, so you're going to get that good sound quality experience from these devices. Now let's talk about the displays side by side. So there is a difference between these, although they're quite closely matched. The Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite does have a HDR10 Plus display versus the Redmi Note 10 Pro's HDR10 standard display. It's a minor difference, I know, but here is another minor difference. The 11 Lite has a 6.55-inch AMOLED display, which supports a 90 Hz refresh rate, which is still 50% faster than an iPhone screen. Now, this one is a big win for the Redmi Note 10 Pro, and it's the fact that it has a 120 Hz refresh rate display, and it's brighter at 1200 nits of peak brightness, versus the 800 nits of peak brightness on the Mi 11 Lite. And don't make the mistake of thinking that the Mi 11 Lite's display is not going to be bright enough. It is going to be bright enough for 99% of you guys out there. And that 90 Hz refresh rate is rapid enough, again, for 99% of you guys out there. Anyone that's been using an iPhone since the dawn of time will notice a massive difference and an upgrade when using this. But check this out. With great power comes great responsibility, and because of the bigger, brighter screen and higher refresh rate on the Redmi Note 10 Pro, it needs a bigger battery, which is 5020 milliamps. But check this out, this is impressive. The Mi 11 Lite has a 4250 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty big. And it really is quite mind-blowing how they've managed to get a battery of that size in this phone and keep the weight down and keep the thinness so thin. And if you're wondering, both phones charge with a 33-watt charger. Now here is where the Mi 11 Lite has the advantage, and it is with the chipset inside the phone. It's the brand new Qualcomm 780 5nm silicon, which is far more powerful than the Snapdragon 732G in the Redmi Note 10 Pro. And just so you guys can visualize this better, here are the Antutu scores on both phones. And both phones come in a variety of memory sizes and RAM sizes, with the maximum being 8 GB of RAM and up to 256 GB of storage. And here's another little difference between the two. The Mi 11 Lite actually has Bluetooth 5.2, whereas the Redmi only has Bluetooth 5.1. That's not a bad thing, they're both very good, but 5.2 is just a little bit better when it comes to connectivity. Now this is where it gets interesting, it's the camera tech. So on the Mi 11 Lite, we have a 64 megapixel primary shooter versus the Redmi Note 10 Pro's 108 megapixel primary shooter. But here's where it gets interesting, because both phones will use pixel binning, essentially taking all of the information and combining it down into a 12 megapixel photo. So take a look at these photos side by side and you tell me which one is better when it comes to the primary shooter. Now both phones have an 8 megapixel ultra wide sensor as well. I would imagine it's exactly the same one on both phones, but have a look at these photos and let me know if you see a difference here. And here's another similarity, both phones have a 5 megapixel tele macro lens. So check out these macro shots, let me know if you can see a difference, and if so, which one is winning. And here is another advantage for the Redmi Note 10 Pro, and it's the depth sensor that this has, the fourth lens that this has that the 11 doesn't. Now this should add extra depth information in photos. Let's see if you can see a difference. And last but not least, let's talk about the selfie cameras and the positioning of those selfie cameras. So on the Redmi Note 10 Pro, the camera is centrally placed and it kind of has this little silvery finish over it. And on the Mi 11 Lite, it's in the top left corner and it's slightly larger. And that might be partly because it has a larger image sensor at 20 megapixels versus the 16 megapixels on the Redmi Note 10 Pro. So that should be a win here for the Mi 11 Lite. Let me know what you think of these selfies. And now, with all things considered, let me know which one you think is better in the comments below. And if you guys got any kind of value out of this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. And if you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man.